Hey folks, wanted to talk about favors. Quick note. Very, very easy to miss this idea. Holacracy in some ways doesn't make it easy to notice this idea. But we have roles, we have people in those roles. These roles define the expectations. And these expectations, be that the purpose of the role or the accountabilities or any of the domains that they may own, you can lean on these expectations if you're making a request for something, right? You can look at them. They should be clear enough. If they're not, they can be, updated, what have you. But you lean on these expectations and you can make a request for an action based on those expectations. What if the thing that you're asking for doesn't fit the role, though? It falls outside of the role. Could draw it, I guess, like this, right? It could be anywhere outside of this role, and it could be outside any of their other roles, right? It doesn't fit. There's not any current governance, but yet you know that this is the person that is kind of the most appropriate to kind of do it. What do you do then? Well, you're asking for a favor. That's kind of the whole point. It's hard to make sense of holacracy if you don't get this distinction. These kinds of expectations that have been explicit by virtue of the Constitution and the circle definitions and the role definitions, these are all the explicit expectations that also by virtue of the rules have kind of like been legitimized in the fact that people have agreed to, via all the processes that these get defined and updated, right? Individuals agree to these kinds of expectations in their roles. So if you need to ask them something, well, we can look at the role definitions. They've already agreed to that. So you can lean on that. It's like a contractor or something, right? Or calling up an IT helpline. By virtue of it being an IT helpline, they've agreed to be helpful in information technology related issues. Simple as that. Okay, but, right, what if it doesn't fall into that? Well, folks, it's actually kind of simple. Now you're just asking that person for a favor. There isn't an explicit expectation that they do it. You could do it yourself, right? Now, again, what often happens is you run into situations where you're like, yeah, but I'm not the best person to do it. It still kind of fits generally either this person's expertise or their history or what they, seem to like to do for whatever reason. It does seem to kind of fit this person, but they're not in a role to do it. How do you handle it? Well, you handle it the same way you would ask for a favor from a friend. That's the key. You're asking for a favor. So ask it like it's a favor, right? Not an expectation. How do you ask for a favor? Hey, I know there is not an explicit expectation on you, right? I know that you haven't agreed to this already. I know it, falls outside your accountabilities or what have you, but would you be willing to? Right? Would you be willing to? And here's the kicker. No must be acceptable as an answer. Right? No must be an acceptable answer. Otherwise, you are not asking for a favor. It is not a request. It is a demand. If they say no, you've got other things you can do. You could potentially do it yourself. You could ask, if it's in a meeting, anyone else willing to do this? Right? If it falls outside all of the rules in the circle, then you can also lean on the circle lead of that circle who has an accountability for picking up things that fall through the cracks. So there are lots of different ways to do it. But if there's a specific person They just don't happen to be in a role. Fine. Just be clear that you're asking for a favor. Hello? Asking for a favor, right? That's all. It's not an expectation. And by definition here, a favor is a request for someone to help you out. You are allowing them the opportunity to make your life more wonderful, should they be willing and able. Sometimes they're willing and not able, right? So no is always an acceptable answer, but a lot of holacracy doesn't make sense unless you kind of get this distinction that pretty much everything that's captured in the governance, right? This whole org chart, all the circles and accountabilities and everything else, right? These are just the explicit expectations that people have agreed to. There is a whole other set of stuff that people, will be doing outside of what's captured here. And favors can kind of fit into that, right? If it's ongoing, then yeah, you might want, this is another question. Or do you expect it to happen again? Happen again? These kinds of questions would mean that, okay, well, maybe there's something to propose in governance, right? But if it's just a one-time thing and there's no clear role to do it, then I'm just going to put a big F here. You are asking for a favor. Hope that's helpful.